All right, just 2 days away from the first college football playoff rankings, Paul. It's time to go rank and file. Give us your top 4 teams, rank your top 4 teams, and give us a team to file away that could find its way into the playoff conversation.
Well, Jay, at number 4, we start with Clemson. It's kind of hard to believe that they are at number 4, but they did lose a couple of weeks ago. They didn't play yesterday, and they have a path back, of course, being the ACC championship rematch, likely with Notre Dame. At number 3, they had a rough outing yesterday. We're talking about the Ohio State Buckeyes. They still won. They played the best competition of the year. Justin Fields struggled, but the Buckeyes are sitting there at number 3. Behind Notre Dame, we'll see them day after Thanksgiving against North Carolina. The Irish itching for a rematch and a return to the playoffs for the first time in a couple of years. And at number 1, there really isn't any dispute any longer. Alabama is clearly the number 1 team in the country. They demolished Kentucky yesterday, and they have Auburn this week in the famous Iron Bowl. And the file team, America's sweetheart. How can you not love Northwestern? Pat Fitzgerald's just a phenomenal coach, and everyone crazy about that program after the big win yesterday against Wisconsin.
Paul, we did the story a few minutes ago. Clemson, Florida State postponed yesterday. 17 other games were either postponed or canceled due to COVID-19 concerns. How are you viewing teams who've played fewer games when you're looking toward the playoffs?
Yeah, it's back like we were in high school again, grading on the curve. It's not easy to do, but you in my mind, the committee, which is meeting right now and probably watching this for advice, I'm sure, needs to look at the quality games. I mean, the bad opposition is not going to tell you anything. The good competition will, and I think yesterday's Clemson-Florida State game wouldn't have told us much about Clemson. They were going to win that game by 4 touchdowns or perhaps more. But they'll ultimately decide Clemson's fate against Notre Dame, and I think that's the same for Florida and all these other schools that are right there on the cusp.
Okay, Heisman race heating up as we get down the stretch. I mentioned Trevor Lawrence and Clemson unable to play this week. Who are your top 3 Heisman candidates?
Well, I started number 3 with Mac Jones. Remember, a year and a couple of weeks ago, he was the backup to, at the time, the Heisman favorite, Tua Tagovailoa. He has emerged and has had a phenomenal season. And if he played anywhere but Alabama, he might be the favorite, but we discount him a little bit because of all the great talent around him. At number 2, and some will go, what are you talking about here? Justin Fields. He had a rough outing, but when Justin Fields has a rough outing, it's still better than almost anyone else. And at number 1 is Kyle Trask. He didn't have a great showing yesterday by his standards, but a guy who was a backup a year and a half ago is now the leading Heisman candidate in the country, and the Gators are rolling and waiting to see Alabama in Atlanta in a couple of weeks.
Okay, I'm gonna be that guy to go, hey, what are you talking about there? Because you could argue that Michael Penix outplayed him yesterday, maybe for the entire season, but he's not even in your top 3. So what's up with Justin Fields?
Well, I didn't know how to spell his name. Listen, I agree with you, but when you watch Justin Fields, I think he's the most talented player in the country. He rushed yesterday. He struggled, but I still think you can't just forget everything that you know about Justin Fields because of one tough outing. He's still on my list, and quite frankly, the next 3 to 4 weeks will determine the Heisman race.
Indeed, they will. Paul Finebaum, always a pleasure to have you on SportsCenter, brother.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.